I mean, I just feel like anybody would understand at this point. Like, I'll retire the heavyweight belt if I have to.
In a stunning move that has sent shockwaves through the combat sports world, the entire UFC heavyweight division has issued a collective statement declaring their intent to seek financial opportunities outside the promotion. The fighters, united in their stance, have boldly proclaimed, "We'll get our money elsewhere," signaling a significant shift in the power dynamics between athletes and the organization. This unprecedented declaration comes on the heels of mounting frustrations regarding fighter compensation, particularly within the heavyweight ranks. Sources close to the situation suggest that the UFC's recent actions, including cuts to fighter salaries and a perceived lack of support for athletes' financial well-being, have been catalysts for this unified stand. Notably, heavyweight champion Tom Aspinall has been at the forefront of discussions about exploring alternative avenues for income. His father and manager, Andy Aspinall, has openly expressed reservations about his son's future with the UFC, suggesting that boxing presents more lucrative prospects. "Boxing for sure," Andy stated, emphasizing that the financial rewards in boxing far surpass those in MMA. The UFC's recent $7.7 billion media rights deal with Paramount Skydance has further intensified the situation. Fighters are questioning why the promotion is securing such substantial agreements while their own earnings remain stagnant. This disparity has fueled the sentiment that the UFC's financial priorities are misaligned with the needs of its athletes. In response to the growing unrest, UFC President Dana White has pledged to address the concerns raised by the heavyweight division. However, with the fighters' resolve hardening, it remains to be seen whether the promotion can reconcile with its athletes or if this marks the beginning of a new era in combat sports where fighters seek greener pastures beyond the UFC. As this developing story unfolds, all eyes will be on the UFC's next moves and whether they can retain their heavyweight stars or if a mass exodus to other combat sports promotions becomes a reality. The landscape of mixed martial arts may be on the verge of a significant transformation. Mixed martial arts has exploded in popularity over the last 2 decades, and the UFC has grown into a billion-dollar empire. Pay-per-view events, massive sponsorship deals, and a $7.7 billion media rights agreement with Paramount Skydance showcase just how much money flows through the promotion. Yet, for the men and women risking life and limb inside the Octagon, compensation often falls far short of what one might expect. Unlike other professional athletes, UFC fighters operate on contracts that rarely guarantee long-term financial security, and their earnings are largely dependent on fight purses, performance bonuses, and sponsorships. Take Sean O'Malley, the charismatic bantamweight star known for his flashy style and viral appeal. While O'Malley has become a household name among fight fans, his reported UFC salary doesn't always reflect the massive audience he draws. The majority of his income comes from bonuses and sponsorship deals, rather than a guaranteed high base pay. Even with multiple fight wins and growing popularity, O'Malley's situation highlights a larger structural issue in the UFC. Fighters generate immense revenue for the organization, but their compensation often does not scale proportionally. Many fighters argue that, considering the physical risks, punishing training schedules, and career-shortening injuries, they deserve a far larger slice of the pie.
What's been your biggest payday in any fight?
For sure, this last one. Now that I'm not champ, I won't make nearly as much money. Not just fighting for the belt, but defending the belt. You start making pay-per-view money. Sometimes you can make 100,000 to show, 100,000 to win. So you make 200,000. You lose, you make 100,000. Like some people, contracts are like that. I don't necessarily love that structure. I prefer a flat fee. Some people get flat fees, some people don't. First person walking out of the night, fight of the night, they're probably making 12,000 to show, 12,000 to win. I think that's the minimum right now. So yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily a lot of money, but also you got to do what you love to do.
Moving to the heavyweight division, Tom Aspinall represents both talent and frustration in equal measure. Aspinall has quickly risen through the UFC ranks, establishing himself as a dominant force in the heavyweight landscape. However, his camp has openly discussed the disparity between his earning potential in MMA versus other combat sports, particularly boxing. His father and manager, Andy Aspinall, has suggested that pursuing boxing could be far more lucrative, saying plainly, "Boxing for sure," when asked about his son's future with the UFC. The point is clear. Even rising stars in the UFC are weighing financial opportunities outside the promotion, signaling a growing dissatisfaction with fighter pay structures. This is not an isolated concern. The UFC's heavyweights have recently made headlines with statements like, "We'll get our money elsewhere," a bold declaration that shows the tension between fighters and the promotion is reaching a boiling point. The comparison with Mike Tyson and boxing legends further illustrates the gap in athlete compensation. Tyson, during his prime, earned tens of millions per fight, sometimes in a single night, far exceeding what even the top UFC stars make in a year. Boxing operates on a different model, where the athlete often directly controls a significant share of pay-per-view revenue and sponsorships. In contrast, UFC fighters operate under a system where the promotion holds most of the leverage, leaving even elite fighters to negotiate for incremental bonuses rather than a guaranteed percentage of the revenue they help generate. This disparity has fueled discussions about fighter unions, collective bargaining, and alternative revenue streams, as athletes increasingly explore ways to protect their financial futures. While UFC President Dana White has acknowledged these concerns, the reality remains. The UFC is a business, and like any business, it prioritizes profit. Fighters, however, are not just employees. They are the product itself. Without their skills, charisma, and risks, the UFC wouldn't exist. As stars like Sean O'Malley and Tom Aspinall continue to rise, their influence grows, giving them more leverage to demand fair pay. Whether this results in higher purses, new contract models, or even a potential shift toward other combat sports, one thing is clear. The conversation about fighter pay is no longer behind closed doors. It's a central narrative in the evolution of MMA. As fans, analysts, and fighters alike watch this story unfold, the question becomes, how long can the UFC maintain its current pay structure before its top talent starts looking elsewhere? With comparisons to boxing and statements from heavyweight stars challenging the status quo, the fight for fair compensation may be the most important battle outside the Octagon today. The stakes are high, the tension is real, and the outcome could reshape the financial landscape of mixed martial arts forever.
Thanks for the question, John, about footballers' pay compared to UFC fighters' pay. I think that I wouldn't want to say that footballers should get paid less, because we'd all take the money if we could, but I think that UFC fighters, especially at the top level, should get paid more. That's my opinion.
Like you in your prime, you would have been a UFC fighter or something like that.
Because then the biggest UFC, 5 of the biggest UFC fighters combined couldn't match my pay.
Oh,
That's just it.
it wasn't worth the pay.
No, I want to be the biggest fighter, the biggest purse. I want all that stuff.
Yeah.
Mike Tyson fights, he shuts everything down. The biggest purse.
That's it.
If you look at the P&L statement for UFC, payroll accounted for like 44% of the expenses. The rest of it with marketing and all the reinvestment to do to grow the business, you know. So it's like on Bellator, the payroll might be 70% of the revenue, but zero marketing.
Zero. PFL, there's only one thing that they need to do in order to continue to gain this profile, and that's spend more money on marketing, and they're doing a good job. They got Francis Ngannou, they got Jake Paul, and there's these other guys who can be a mouthpiece and be a big platform type of person to be able to help grow the entire brand. The UFC, they just put on this show, and they sell pay-per-view, and they do it because everyone knows about it.
When the UFC heavyweight division and other fighters began voicing concerns over pay, UFC President Dana White didn't stay silent. Historically, White has been a fierce defender of the promotion's business model, often framing fighter pay as part of the risk-reward structure unique to MMA. In recent statements, he acknowledged that top fighters should earn more, but also emphasized that the UFC already invests heavily in building stars, promoting fights, and securing massive media deals. White's strategy appears twofold. Publicly affirm that the organization values its athletes, while quietly keeping negotiations tightly controlled behind the scenes. Looking back, the UFC has a mixed track record when it comes to resolving disputes. In some cases, high-profile fighters like Ronda Rousey or Conor McGregor were able to negotiate extraordinary pay-per-view percentages and bonuses, but for most fighters, systemic change has been slower. Past controversies, such as the push for fighter unionization or disputes over win bonuses, have often ended with minor concessions rather than large structural adjustments. White tends to rely on a carrot and stick approach, offer individual incentives for top performers while maintaining the status quo for the broader roster. Now, with the entire heavyweight division signaling that they may seek opportunities elsewhere, the UFC faces a critical moment. Will White be able to retain his top talent with selective bonus packages, or will this collective push force the promotion to rethink its compensation strategy? Observers suggest that while the UFC has weathered past controversies, a unified front from an entire division presents a challenge unlike any other. A challenge that could redefine how fighters are valued in the sport going forward.
For you, when you see these guys like a Justin Gaethje, when he gets knocked out in the fashion that he does, right? Everybody's seen him get knocked out by Max Holloway. How do you think these fighters get back up, put the gloves back on, and go back into the octagon as if that never happened, and still feeling like they're the baddest motherfucker on the face of the earth?
You're so right, and it's what makes them special and different than everybody else in the world. To be able to fight in the UFC, especially in the level of the top 5 in the world, right? This many people actually make it. Yeah. This many, right? You are literally not like any other human being on earth. Imagine walking into a 22,000 seat arena where it's packed and you're going up against a guy who's as good as you and the whole fucking world is watching you get knocked out, viciously knocked out or whatever can happen, and you pick yourself up, you go out there, you walk out of the cage, you go back and you walk back into your normal life and heal, get better mentally, physically, and emotionally, and then come back and try it all over again. It takes a special type of human.
And one other thing I wanted to ask you about is, obviously you're asked about the PFL and the competition all the time, but I don't know if you saw, there's another league that's going to be starting up, the GFL, and there's a wide array of names, very familiar names, a lot of names who have fought in the UFC that are there, and people are reacting in certain ways. A lot of really old retired fighters that are trying to get back in there and that's just basically what it is. But what was your reaction to not only this new league starting? I know it's been teased for a couple of years, but we're actually seeing some of the roster. What did you think?
I actually don't know anything about it. I say this all the time. I welcome everybody. Listen, there's no barrier to entry to get into this sport. And, I hear a lot of people saying that we don't do this right, we don't do that right. Come on in, everybody. Dive in.
Yeah, so some of the names mentioned: Tyron Woodley, Fabricio Verdum, Anthony Pettis, Junior Dos Santos, Luke Rockhold.
With tensions rising over pay and compensation, the future of the UFC's heavyweight division, and MMA at large, could be entering uncharted territory. One possibility is that fighters may explore opportunities outside the UFC, particularly in boxing or other combat sports promotions like Bellator, One Championship, or the PFL. For athletes like Tom Aspinall, the lure of more lucrative contracts and higher per-fight payouts in boxing is hard to ignore. Even stars like Sean O'Malley could leverage their growing popularity into more profitable ventures if the UFC fails to adjust its compensation structure. Another potential outcome is the push for collective bargaining or unionization within MMA. While attempts in the past have faced significant resistance, a united division, especially a high-profile group like the heavyweights, could create the momentum necessary for meaningful change. Fighters may start negotiating as a group for guaranteed minimums, revenue sharing, or more transparent bonus structures, challenging the UFC's long-standing model where individual negotiation largely determines earnings. Alternatively, the UFC may attempt to address the unrest with selective incentives. Bigger fight purses, larger performance bonuses, or share of revenue arrangements for its most popular stars. This strategy could retain top talent without fundamentally altering the overall pay system, but it risks leaving the rest of the roster dissatisfied. If handled poorly, this could lead to a gradual talent drain, with fighters seeking greener pastures elsewhere. Ultimately, the stakes are high. The resolution of this pay dispute will not only affect the UFC's heavyweight division, but could also set a precedent for the future of MMA as a sport. Will fighters accept incremental improvements, or will the growing disparity between revenue generation and compensation push them toward bold, alternative paths? The coming months could reshape the landscape of mixed martial arts and redefine the power dynamic between fighters and the promotion. White opened up about the growing trend of fighters requesting larger bonuses, and his response was classic Dana: enthusiastic, unapologetic, and focused on motivation. White explained that bonuses aren't just financial perks. They're a tool to push fighters to perform at their absolute best. I love motivating people more than they were already motivated, and I love the impact it has on their lives, he said, emphasizing that these incentives can transform a fighter's career and livelihood. He painted a picture of the energy at the press conference, noting how fighters' excitement over potential bonuses amps up the crowd and the event itself. What makes these bonuses unique is their reach. White highlighted that every fighter on the card can benefit, regardless of their position on the lineup. You could be fighting first and making $25,000, but if you win, that could turn into $150,000 with the added bonuses, Dana explained. It's a system designed to reward performance, create high-stakes excitement, and keep athletes striving for more inside the octagon. White's philosophy is clear. Bonuses are about more than money. They're about motivation, impact, and opportunity. By pushing fighters to perform at higher levels, the UFC not only creates unforgettable fight nights, but also gives athletes a chance to change their lives financially. As White sees it, this dynamic ensures that every fighter has something extra to fight for, turning every bout into a battle worth watching and worth winning. In the end, Dana White's approach shows how the UFC balances business, entertainment, and fighter motivation, with high stakes, high rewards, and the belief that the right incentives can bring out the very best in every athlete.
We saw it at the press conference yesterday, and it's become a regular theme, this. Fighters keep getting you on the bonuses, man. They keep getting it boost. Yesterday, obviously, you promised an extra 50K on those bonuses. Do they always catch you off guard, or are you aware that they're going to get you?
No, nobody ever catches me off guard with any of that type of stuff. And yeah.
It's fun to do though, because the crowd reacts. You know what I mean?
Well, it's fun for me because, tomorrow night I expected the card to be great anyway. But now there's $100,000 more dollars on the line. I mean, no, they don't discriminate. No matter where you sit on the card, you could be the first fight of the night, and you could be making 25 and 25, and you could pull out another $100,000. So if you win, it's $150,000. If that doesn't motivate you to fight, you're probably in the wrong sport. You should go get into something else, because I love two things. I love motivating people more than they were already motivated, and I love the impact that it will have on their lives.
That's it for today, fight fans. For the latest UFC news and exclusive fight breakdowns, stay locked on Octagon HQ. Smash that subscribe button and hit the bell to never miss a fight.